winter storm had swallowed the entire city overnight. Snow pounded against windows, wind howled through the streets, and most people stayed inside, except one little girl standing alone at the massive marble reception desk of Harrington Enterprises. Her boots were soaked, her tiny fingers were red from the freezing cold, and her trembling voice barely reached the ears of the receptionist. I need to see Mr. Harrington," she whispered. The receptionist looked down, startled. Children were not supposed to be in the building, especially not during a storm. "Sweetheart, do you have an appointment, or maybe your mom?" The girl's chin quivered. "My mom didn't come home last night." The receptionist froze. Before she could respond, a deep voice echoed from behind. "Who didn't come home?" Everyone on the floor turned. Alexander Harrington, the CEO, known as the coldest, most disciplined businessman in the city. The man whose glare could silence anyone. But the moment his eyes landed on the shivering child, something inside him shifted. He crouched down to her height. "What's your name?" "Lila," she said softly, wiping her tears. "My mom works here, in the cleaning staff. She always comes home before me, but last night she didn't." Alexander's brows furrowed. He glanced at his employees. No one said a word. Lila continued. "I waited all night. I called her phone. I checked outside. I walked through the snow to come here." The last sentence hit him like a punch. "You walked here alone?" he asked, unable to hide the shock. She nodded. "I thought maybe she's still working, or maybe she's stuck, or maybe—" Her voice broke. Alexander rose slowly, his jaw tightening. "Get me last night's building logs, every entry, every exit," he commanded sharply. The staff scattered instantly. He removed his long black coat and wrapped it around Lila's tiny shoulders. "It's warm," she whispered. "Stay close," he told her gently. "We will find your mother." When the security chief arrived, he looked pale. "Sir, your cleaner, Maria. She left the building at 11:42 p.m., but the cameras show something strange." Alexander's heart thudded. "What happened?" The chief swallowed hard. "She didn't go home. She went toward the highway and into the storm." Alexander didn't wait another second. He grabbed his keys. "Send the coordinates. I'm going now." And with the little girl watching with wide, terrified eyes, the CEO rushed into the snowstorm. The icy wind slammed into Alexander the moment he stepped outside the glass doors. Snow swirled violently across the streets, erasing footprints almost instantly. But he didn't stop. He rushed toward his black SUV, his breath turning white as he opened the door and started the engine. Inside the lobby, little Lila stood at the window, clutching his coat around her tiny frame. Her eyes followed the headlights until they disappeared into the storm. Alexander gripped the steering wheel tightly as he drove through nearly invisible roads. Why was Maria out there? Why didn't she go home? He knew Maria only from her work record. Punctual, hardworking, a single mother raising a little girl alone. He had never imagined their lives would collide like this. His phone buzzed. "It's security, sir. We found footage from the highway cameras. She was walking fast, carrying something." "Carrying what?" Alexander demanded. "A small insulated bag, maybe food or medicine." Alexander's pulse quickened. "She went out in a storm for medicine? We're checking nearby pharmacies." But Alexander had already guessed the truth. Her daughter had mentioned something crucial earlier. "Mom always comes home before me. Unless she has to get my medicine," he swore under his breath. Lila had asthma. He remembered reading it in the employee medical records months ago. There had been warnings about severe attacks during winter. If Maria had gone out to get medicine in this storm, the SUV skidded slightly on an icy patch. Alexander steadied it, his jaw tight. He pushed forward until he saw flashing emergency lights far ahead on the highway. He pressed harder on the accelerator. Within minutes, he reached the scene. A police car, a snow-covered guardrail, and two officers crouched beside a figure lying partially buried in the snow. His chest constricted. He jumped out of the car before it fully stopped. "Maria," he shouted. One of the officers turned. "Sir, you can't—" But Alexander was already kneeling beside her. Maria's lips were blue. Snow clung to her hair. One arm was stiff around a small insulated bag, the same one security mentioned. Inside it was a sealed inhaler. For her daughter. She tried to walk back, the officer said, collapsed from cold and exhaustion. Alexander didn't speak. He gently lifted her into his arms. "Get the ambulance ready," he ordered firmly. "She's not dying today." As he carried Maria toward the flashing lights, one thought hit him harder than the storm itself. Alexander paced outside the emergency room, snow melting off his coat and dripping onto the polished hospital floor. Nurses hurried past him. Doctors called out instructions, but all he could hear was the little girl's trembling voice echoing in his mind. "Sir, my mom didn't come home last night." He ran a hand over his face. He had carried Maria into the ambulance himself. He remembered how light she felt, too light, like someone who had been skipping meals to feed her child. He remembered how her fingers were frozen stiff around the medicine she never got to deliver. A soft sound pulled him from his thoughts. "Excuse me?" Lila stood in the hallway, still wrapped in his oversized coat. Her eyes were red from crying, but her chin trembled with hope. Is she inside?" Alexander dropped to one knee so he was eye level with her. "Yes, the doctors are helping her right now," he said gently. "She's very strong, Lila. But she didn't come home." Her voice broke. "I thought she left because I needed medicine again." His heart clenched. He reached out and held her small hand. "Your mother didn't leave you," he said firmly. "She went into the storm to get the medicine for you. She collapsed trying to come home." Lila's eyes widened, filling with tears. She was coming back to me?" "Yes," he whispered. "She always was." Before the girl could respond, a doctor pushed open the ER doors. "Family of Maria Flores?" Alexander stood immediately, Lila squeezing his hand. "The storm caused severe hypothermia," the doctor explained. "But she's stable now. She woke up a few minutes ago and asked for her daughter." Lila didn't wait. She ran past the doctor and Alexander followed. Inside the dim recovery room, Maria lay wrapped in warm blankets. Her face was pale, but her eyes lit up the moment she saw her daughter. "Lila," she breathed. The little girl climbed carefully onto the bed and buried her face against her mother's shoulder. Alexander stood silently at the doorway, watching the moment he had fought the storm for. Maria looked up at him, tears gathering in her eyes. I didn't expect my boss to come," she whispered. He stepped closer. "No boss would have done what you did for your daughter," he said quietly. "But you did. I just made sure you survived it." Maria blinked, stunned by his sincerity. "And from now on," Alexander added, "you won't face storms alone.